A source inside the Browns facility, and the quarterback battle isn't even including Shedeur Sanders at this point. TJ is being told. He said, I was told it's really coming down to Kenny Pickett or Dylan Gabriel. Now, when you get the reports that Shedeur is completing 7 out of 9 passes, you ask yourself, is it against the starters or is it against the 3s and the 4s? That skepticism isn't new. Let's finish this. So others have chimed in during a mini camp June 10th. Sanders reportedly completed 10 of 12, 2 touchdowns. But Cleveland.com's Ashley Bastock noted that Sanders was working behind Pickett, behind Gabriel, and behind Joe Flacco, ranking him 4th on the current pecking order. Meanwhile, ESPN's Daniel Oyefusi created confusion by reporting that Sanders' roster spot isn't even guaranteed heading into training camp.
Shedeur Sanders fans, we just got some absolutely wild news that's gonna make your blood boil. TJ Houshmandzadeh just dropped a straight-up bombshell about what's really happening inside the Browns facility. And let me tell you, it's not what we've been hearing from the media. According to his sources, the quarterback battle isn't even including Shedeur at this point. I'm talking about a 5th-round pick who might not even make the team, let alone compete for a starting spot. But here's the thing that's got me heated. TJ is saying it's really coming down to Kenny Pickett or Dylan Gabriel, and Shedeur is sitting there as the 4th-string quarterback working with guys who are about to get cut in 3 weeks. This is either the most disrespectful thing I've ever heard, or we're about to witness the greatest underdog story in NFL history. Look, I gotta be real with you guys about what TJ Houshmandzadeh is saying here. This dude cited a source inside the Browns facility, and he's telling us that the quarterback battle isn't even including Shedeur Sanders at this point. His exact words were, I was told it's really coming down to Kenny Pickett or Dylan Gabriel. Now, as someone who's been following Shedeur closely, this latest development has me asking some serious questions about what's really going on in Cleveland. From what I've seen in the reports, yeah, Shedeur is completing 7 out of 9 passes. But here's the thing that nobody wants to talk about. Is it against the starters? Or is it against the 3s and the 4s? That skepticism isn't new. And honestly, it's starting to make more sense when you hear what TJ is saying from his inside sources. But wait, it gets even worse. During a mini camp on June 10th, Sanders reportedly completed 10 out of 12 passes with 2 touchdowns. Sounds impressive, right? But here's what Cleveland.com single quotes as Ashley Bastow noted. Sanders was working behind Pickett, behind Gabriel, and behind Joe Flacco, ranking him 4th on the current pecking order. 4th, we're talking about Deion Sanders' son, a guy who was projected to go in the 1st round. And he's sitting at number 4. And you know what's really got me heated? ESPN's Daniel Oyefusi created even more confusion by reporting that Sanders' roster spot isn't even guaranteed heading into training camp. Like, what are we even talking about here? This is primetime son. And we're questioning whether he's gonna make the team now. I could be wrong about this, but something doesn't add up. Head coach Kevin Stefanski hasn't closed the door completely, saying they are both wired to get in early, stay late, put in whatever work is required. They're sponges in the meeting room. But here's the problem. If it hasn't translated into first-team reps, what good is all that work ethic?
When he got drafted in the 5th round, a couple things went to my head. The first thing was when you don't go 1st round or 2nd round, especially as a quarterback, I'm like, dog, there are no guarantees you making this team. On top of, you have no favor, right? 3rd round down, man, I knew it. They get treated. 3rd round, 7th round, they get treated almost the same. 3rd round a little better, but after 4th through 7th for sure the same. But 3rd round a little better because it's about the money for real. Let's just keep it real. And what they thought of you, right? Like, you gonna give the girl you thought was all that a couple more reps. That date didn't go so well, but she fine and you really wanted to holler at her and you've been at her for a while, she gonna get a 2nd date versus somebody you was just like, well, she's still around.
Let me break down what being a 5th-round pick really means, because I think a lot of you guys don't understand the reality of this situation. When Shedeur got drafted in the 5th round, I knew exactly what that meant for his chances. When you don't go 1st round or 2nd round, especially as a quarterback, there are no guarantees you're making this team. None from what I've seen in the NFL. 3rd round down, man, they get treated almost the same. 3rd round gets a little better treatment, but 4th through 7, they're all treated exactly the same. And it's about the money. Let's just keep it real. It's about what they thought of you when they drafted you. Think about it like this. You're gonna give the girl you thought was all that a couple more reps, right? That 1st date didn't go so well, but she's fine and you really wanted to holler at her. You've been at her for a while, so she's gonna get a 2nd date. But somebody you was just like, well, She's still around. If that first date goes bad, you're done. That's the reality for fifth rounders. You never get a second chance to make a first impression. And when you're a fifth rounder, that is already a bad impression. It could be worse. You could be sixth or seventh round or undrafted, but it could be a lot better. And here's what's crazy. Free agents are actually better than sixth and seventh rounders because they get to pick the place that's best for them. Sixth and seventh rounders are stuck wherever they get drafted. But here's what really gets me about Shedeur's situation. You got drafted somewhere where they already drafted somebody at your position the same year. That's rare, especially at quarterback. That's like unheard of. They grabbed a third-round quarterback in Dylan Gabriel and then went and got Shedeur in the fifth. What do you guys think about that move? Let me know in the comments because that's some questionable roster construction right there. Now, I'm not saying the owner and Dion couldn't have worked something out. Maybe they weren't cool with him going in the first round or second round. Okay, whatever. But at the end of the day, the owner is going to make the decision, or Shedeur is going to have to play himself into it. And here's the problem with playing yourself into it. Joe Flacco is going to get his reps. This old man came off the couch and he ain't there for nothing else but to ball in the games. So, we're gonna give him his reps. Kenny Pickett. They traded for him. So, you know they want to see what they got. They want some ROI on that investment. Dylan Gabriel. They drafted him before Shedeur, so he's ahead on the depth chart. The depth chart might be fake in camp, but it's based on their perceptions going in. Then it gets real based on how you play. But here's the problem. If you're the fourth stringer, how much are you really playing? How much are you getting on the field? Watch the first preseason game and tell me I'm wrong. Shedeur is not going out there first. Maybe Flacco goes out there first, then Pickett, then Gabriel, and then Shedeur gets his reps. But who is he playing with? FedEx drivers, Amazon drivers. Because most of those guys are going to get cut in 3 or 4 weeks. A couple might get picked up by another team, but other than that, it's a wrap. So you're already downgrading the value of that film. That's the harsh reality that nobody wants to talk about. When you're working with fourth string guys who are about to get cut, how much does that really show about your ability to play at the NFL level? From what I've seen, this is the same situation that happens to late round picks every year. You get your shot, but it's not against the guys you're going to be playing with if you make the team. It's against guys who are fighting just to stay in the league for another week. But here's where I'm going to defend Shedeur a little bit. An uphill battle doesn't mean it can't happen. I'm not saying he's done. I'm just trying to give you guys a realistic perspective. We've seen late round picks make it before, but they had to be absolutely exceptional to overcome the odds. And you know what? I just did some digging on the latest news, and there's actually some stuff happening that gives me a little hope for Shedeur. Recent reports are showing that the Browns are still very much evaluating all their quarterback options heading into training camp. And there's been talk about how impressed coaches have been with both rookies' work ethic and preparation. From what I've seen in the latest reports, Shedeur has been putting in extra work with the receivers after practice, trying to build that chemistry that's so crucial for quarterbacks. Now, I could be wrong about this, but that sounds like a guy who's not just accepting his fourth string status. That sounds like someone who's fighting to move up that depth chart. What do you guys think? Do you think Shedeur is going to make the team? More importantly, think he's going to start? I don't think he can start this year. I'm not putting that out there. I don't know if he's going to make the team or not. I want to see after the first preseason game. Then I'll tell you if he's making the team. Guarantee it. I've got to see something. I've got to see how sorry these other dudes are and how good Shedeur really is. That's a fair argument, right? Let me know in the comments what you think about this whole situation. Now, here's what's really interesting about TJ's comments. He's not just some random analyst throwing out hot takes. This is a former NFL receiver who has connections inside facilities. When he says he's being told something by sources inside the Browns, that carries weight. And if what he's saying is true, then all the hype we've been hearing about Shedeur's progress might just be smoke and mirrors. But wait, there's more to this story that just came out. I've been following the latest reports, and apparently there's been some internal discussions about the Browns potentially keeping 4 quarterbacks on the roster this season. Now, that's not normal. Most teams only keep 3. But with Shedeur's upside and the uncertainty around some of their veteran options, they might be considering expanding that quarterback room. What's even more interesting is that there are reports suggesting that NFL scouts and personnel people around the league are still high on Shedeur's potential. Some are saying that his slide to the 5th round had more to do with concerns about his supporting cast in college rather than his actual ability. That's a fair argument, right? But you know what? I'm someone who will call it how it is, and right now, the situation doesn't look good for Shedeur. Training camp opens July 25th, and the clock is ticking for him to change this narrative. He's got to show something special, not just against the fourth stringers, but when he gets his limited opportunities against better competition from what they're showing us. Shedeur is working hard, staying late, being a sponge in the meeting room, but we need to see that translate to actual performance when the lights are on. And right now, according to TJ's sources, it's not translating to anything that's moving the needle in terms of the quarterback competition. What's crazy is that we're talking about a guy who was supposed to be a potential first-round pick, and now we're questioning whether he's even going to make the roster. That's a dramatic fall from grace, and it's happening faster than anyone expected. And here's something that just caught my attention. There's been buzz around the league about other teams potentially being interested in Shedeur if the Browns decide to move on from him. I'm hearing whispers that some organizations are keeping an eye on his situation because they believe in his talent and think he just needs the right opportunity. Teams like the Raiders and potentially even the Patriots have been mentioned as franchises that might take a flyer on him if he becomes available. You know what's even more frustrating? The media keeps putting out these positive reports about Shedeur's progress, but then you get insider information like what TJ is sharing, and it paints a completely different picture. Which one do we believe? The official reports or the inside sources? But here's a recent development that might change everything. Word is that Joe Flacco has been dealing with some minor injury concerns during the early parts of camp. Nothing serious, but it's opened up more reps for the younger guys, including Shedeur. From what I've seen, he's been taking advantage of these opportunities and showing flashes of what made him special in college. I think the truth is probably somewhere in the middle. Shedeur is probably working hard and showing flashes, but he's also probably not close to being in the actual quarterback battle for meaningful snaps. And that's the harsh reality of being a fifth-round pick at the most important position in sports. But here's what I want to see from Shedeur. I want to see him use this as motivation. Everyone's counting him out. Everyone's saying he might not make the team. That's bulletin board material right there. If he's really got that primetime DNA, this is where he needs to show it. From what I've seen throughout his college career, Shedeur has always responded well to adversity. He's been doubted before, and he's proved people wrong. But this is different. This is the NFL, where the margins are razor thin, and there's no room for error. The question is, can he elevate his game enough to not just make the team, but to actually compete for playing time? Because right now, according to TJ's sources, he's not even in the conversation for the starting job. He's fighting just to stick around as the fourth quarterback. And let's be real about what that means. If you're the fourth quarterback, you're essentially a practice squad player. You're not getting activated on game days. You're not getting any meaningful reps. And you're one roster move away from being cut entirely. That's not the trajectory anyone expected for Shedeur Sanders when he declared for the draft. Everyone thought he was going to walk into a situation where he could compete for a starting job relatively quickly. Instead, he's walking into a situation where he's fighting just to make the roster. But you know what? Maybe that's exactly what he needs. Maybe he needed this wake-up call to realize that his name and his pedigree aren't going to carry him in the NFL. Maybe he needed to be in a situation where he has to prove himself from the ground up. And speaking of proving himself, here's something that's got me cautiously optimistic. Recent reports are indicating that Shedeur has been one of the most studious players in the quarterback room. Coaches have been impressed with his ability to pick up the playbook and his football IQ. That might not translate to immediate playing time, but it's laying the foundation for future success. There's also been some interesting stuff coming out about his arm strength and accuracy in practice. While TJ's sources are saying he's not in the quarterback battle, other reports suggest that when he does get his opportunities, he's been making the most of them. The question is whether those flashes are enough to overcome the depth chart politics. What do you guys think? Is this the best thing that could have happened to Shedeur? Or is this a sign that his NFL career is already in trouble? Let me know in the comments because I want to hear from every Shedeur Sanders fan about whether you think he can overcome these odds. The bottom line is this: TJ Houshmandzadeh just gave us a reality check that nobody wanted to hear. Shedeur Sanders isn't just fighting for a starting job, he's fighting to make the team. And according to inside sources, he's not even close to being in the quarterback battle. But here's the twist that might save everything. If Shedeur can somehow turn this situation around, if he can go from fourth string to making the team and eventually competing for playing time, that would be one of the greatest comeback stories in NFL history. And knowing what I know about primetime son, I wouldn't count him out just yet. We need to see what happens in training camp. We need to see how he performs in the preseason games. And we need to see if he can prove TJ's sources wrong. Because, right now, the narrative is not in his favor, but narratives can change quickly in the NFL. What's your take on this whole situation? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and let's keep this conversation going. Are you still believing in Shedeur? Or are you starting to worry about his NFL future? If you want to see how this story develops and get all the latest updates on Shedeur Sanders and the Browns quarterback situation, make sure you smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss any breaking news. And let's keep supporting our guy through this challenging time. The journey is far from over.